I'm K. Karthikeyan and we are going to discuss about structural pattern and types. Structural patterns. Structural design pattern. This is design patterns. One of the design patterns. Structural design patterns are considered with how classes and objects can be composed from larger structures. The structural design pattern simplifies the structure by identifying the relationships. These patterns focus on how the class inherit from each other and how they compose from the class. There are more types of patterns. There are following 7 types of patterns. Design patterns there, and we go to study. First one, adapter pattern. Adapting an interface into another according to client expectation. And a bridge pattern, separating abstraction interface from implementation. Composite pattern, allowing clients to operate on hierarchy of objects. Decorator pattern, adding functionality to an object dynamically. Facet pattern, providing an interface to set of interface. Flyweight pattern, reusing an object by sharing it. Proxy pattern, representing another project. Adapter pattern. An adapter pattern says that just converts the interface of a class into that a client wants. In other words, to provide interface according to the client requirement while using the service of class with a different interface. The adapter pattern also called known as a wrapper pattern or wrapper. Advantages of adapter pattern. It allows 2 or more previously incompatible objects to interact. It allows reusability of existing functionality. And this is a diagram for adapter pattern. Adapter pattern demo, it uses credit card and a bank customer which implements credit card is a target interface and extends bank details. From a credit card, it is a target interface and bank details. If the account holder having account, then it targets the credit card available or not. Now we move on to another pattern in structural pattern, second type, bridge pattern, bridge design pattern. And advantage of bridge DP, usage of DP, UML we are going to show. See, a bridge pattern says that just decouple the functional abstraction from the implementation so that two can vary independently. The bridge pattern is also known as handle or body. Advantage of bridge pattern, it is enables the separation of implementation from interface. It improves the extensibility. It allows the hiding of implementation details from the client. Usage of bridge pattern. When you don't want a permanent binding between the functional abstraction and its implementation, when both the functional abstraction and its implementation need to extend using subclasses, so it is mostly used to place where changes are made in implementation does not affect the clients. So bridge pattern is one of the important pattern in structural pattern. And this is the diagram, UML diagram for a pattern, bridge pattern. Now we are going to see Java question. Java question implements questions, and the question manager uses question format extends question manager. Bridge pattern uses this example. Now we go on to composite pattern. A composite pattern says that just allow clients to operate in generic manner an object that may or may not represent a hierarchy of object. Advantage of composite design pattern. It defines class hierarchies that contains primitive and complex objectives object, it makes it easier to you to add new kinds of components. It provides flexibility of structure with manageable class and interface. Usage of composite pattern. It is used when you want to represent. Now we move on to composite pattern. A composite pattern says that just allow clients to operate in a generic manner on an object that may not represent a hierarchy of objects. Advantage of a composite design pattern defines a class hierarchy that contains primitive and complex object. It makes it easier to you to add new kinds of components. It provides flexibility of structure with manageable class and interface. Usage of composite pattern. It is used when you want to represent a full or partial hierarchy object. The responsibility are needed to be added dynamically to the individual object without affecting other objects, whereas the responsibility of object may or may not vary with the time to time. And this is structure of a human diagram for a composite pattern. Client uses component, children components, child composite and leaf node. This is my use composite pattern. Then we go on to decorator pattern. Decorator pattern in the sense like a markup. We want to put a markup but not in a full format. For the client, they do not know what are we decorating. Like that we use our decorator pattern. This is hiding, private, not visible to another users. So decorator pattern says that just attach a flexible additional responsibility to an dynamically. In other words, decorator pattern is composition instead of extend functionality of an object at runtime. Decorator pattern is also known as wrapper. Advantage of decorator pattern: it provides greater flexibility than static inheritance. It enhances the extensibility of object because changes are made by coding new classes. It simplifies the coding by allowing you to develop a series of functionality from target classes. Instead of coding all of the behavior into the objects, use of decorator pattern it is used when you want to transparently dynamically add responsibility to an object without affecting other objects. When you want to add responsibility to an object that you may want to change in future, extending functionality by a subclassing is no longer practical. And decorator pattern example: food, veg food decorator, abstract class. Abstract class in the sense each one have their own class, and some item have not provide in the sense. Now we going to another pattern called facade pattern. A facade pattern says that just provide a unified and simplified interface to a set of interface in a subsystem. Therefore, it hides the complexities of the subsystems from the client. In other words, facade pattern describes a higher level interface that makes the subsystem easier to use. Particularly, every abstract factory is a type of facade. Advantage of facade pattern: it shields the clients from complexity of subsystem components. It promotes losing coupling between subsystem and clients. Usage of facade pattern: it is used when you want to provide simple interface to complex subsystems, and several different diseases exist between clients and implementation of classes of an abstraction. Facade pattern: client, shopkeeper, iPhone, mobile, Samsung, BlackBerry, mobile shop, iPhone, sorry. It is showing that it implements in a mobile shop. There is all models, all higher-end models, because if any customer buy anything, if they no need to buy BlackBerry also, they want to get, because it is the thing to buy in sales. Next we're going to flyweight pattern. A flyweight pattern says that to use already existing similar kind of object by storing them and create new object when no matching object is found. Advantage of flyweight pattern: it reduces the number of objects. It reduces the amount of memory and storage debate required if the object are persisted. Usage of flyweight pattern: when an application uses a number of objects, when the storage cost is high because of the quantity of objects, when the application uses the number of objects, when the storage cost is high because the quantity of object, when the application does not depend on the object identify. Flyweight pattern demo. Flyweight pattern demo asks a shape factory creates circle Circle have XY radius axis and shape. Circle implements shape. Then finally move on to proxy pattern. Proxy pattern in the sense if one person is option another one put proxy like that only. In case someone if proxy pattern, simply proxy means an object representing another object. According to GOF, the proxy pattern provides the control for accessing the original object. So we can perform many operations like hiding the information of original object or demand loading, etc. Proxy pattern is also known as surrogate of placeholder. For example, in VAT there is a course registration object is there. For the course registration object, course registration thing, if one person try to hack the system and try to delete some course or add some course, in the sense that proxy server will maintain temporarily, and the admin who in proxy checking which one is truth, which one is fake, and accordingly they will allow the truth and fake. Like this also in banking system also is going, all things is going like this only. Proxy pattern are working. Advantage of proxy pattern is provide the protection of the original object from the outside world. As the same I said, co-association. Usage of proxy pattern. It is used. It can be used in virtual proxy scenario. Consideration situation where there is a multiple database call to extract a huge size image, since the expensive operation which would be create multiple proxy size. It can be used in protective proxy scenario. It acts as an authorization layer to verify that whether the actual user has been appropriate content or not. For example, a proxy server which provides restriction on internet access is Office. Only the website and contents which are valid will be allowed and the remaining one will block. It can be used in remote proxy scenario. When remote proxy can be thought about stub in RPC call. The promote proxy location object which represent the different address location. Another example can be providing interface for remote resources such as web services and REST resource. It can be used in smart proxy scenario. Smart proxies provides additional layer of security by specific action when the object is accessed. For example, to check whether the real object is locked or not before accessing it, so that no other object can change it. UML diagram for a proxy pattern. Proxy pattern client uses Office internet access. Proxy internet access implements Office internet access. Real internet access. Real internet access they are based on like a BSNL access, and proxy internet access is side users. Okay, finally thanking you for the opportunity. Thank you.